Hi, welcome everybody to the Actors Turn Directors on Eliciting the Best Performance from an Actor, Mel Gibson Interview Part 4. I try to keep these videos short because I know people don't have time to sit around and listen to something for a long period of time. In any event, we're going to pick up where we left off discussing the rewrites on the Braveheart script. And my next question to Mel was, did you visualize yourself playing Wallace when you read the script, or did you consider other actors? Mel, I didn't visualize myself playing Wallace at all. I visualized a kind of fearsome looking primal character, dirty and funky, just out of the cave. Yet, I wanted him to express a certain level of intelligence and education, as he did speak French and Latin, you know. So while at first I didn't think I was right for the part, images just kept hitting me. The script was such that it got inside my head. And for about a year, I created little scenes before I nodded off to sleep. I was making this movie in my head, but I still had no intentions of doing it. Now that's funny, isn't it? So, what made you finally decide to do it, Mel? Answer: I was in my trailer with my assistant, and he said, "What are you going to do next, Mel?" I said, "Hell, I don't know. I haven't read anything that I like." And then I said, "Well, I read one thing that I really cannot get out of my system." And I told him the story, blow by blow, image by image. And he said, "Wow, I've got to read this. It sounds incredible." And I said, "It does sound pretty good, doesn't it?" So he read it and said, "You've got to do this." I went back to Alan Ladd Jr., the producer, and I said, "Look, I want to do it, but I'd like to direct it. Is that cool?" And he said, "I have no problem with it." So, bingo. Question: tell me about casting Braveheart. Well, we had England's, Ireland's, and Scotland's best actors available to us. There was such a wealth of talent that sometimes it was almost difficult to make a choice. I personally don't like reading actors. I know most directors do, but I don't. I don't think you really find out very much by getting anyone to read. I go through a different process altogether. I like meeting the actors and talking with them, getting a sense of who they are. We talk about anything, and eventually I get some vision about who the person is, what they're all about. Question: do you videotape any of these conversations? No, not the ones I was involved in. Patsy Pollock, the casting director, did some work on her own where she'd put people on tape and bring it to me. Question: was Patrick McGoohan your first choice for Longshanks, King Edward I? Mel: Longshanks was the most difficult part to cast. I couldn't find anyone I thought could do it. I had looked at everybody that Patsy provided me with. And then the first AD asked, "What about Pat McGoohan?" I said, "Pat McGoohan? Is he still alive?" Patrick and I met, and I thought he was just great. I said, "Here is a guy with presence. He's got to be the king." He stands about 6'2" or 6'3", so he's tall enough. He has this intense concentration, and his eyes kind of just stare at you, cold and penetrating. He has a very austere presence and an aura about him that demands respect. He is classically trained, which in this particular case was very important, and he has all the authority and age and weight. There was just one problem, which is, Mel, his nose. His nose? Yes, the only thing that didn't look like a king was his small Irish nose. So how did you resolve this, Mel? Mel. So I said, put a nose on him and he'll be perfect. We brought him in and sculptured the fake nose, a stronger, bigger nose, sort of a Roman beak, and he looked perfect as I had imagined him. Question. And his beard was great. Did he come up with it by himself or you created it for him? No, the beard, he grew it himself, and the hair and makeup people trimmed it up. With the nose and beard, he personified my vision of Longshanks, King Edward I. So I just let him go. He portrayed the character of the king as cold and calculating, which I had in mind, right on the edge of being a psychopath. I was very pleased with his performance. Mel, you did a great job with Patrick. He was absolutely excellent. My question is, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, why did you cast Sophie Marceau as Princess Isabel? Mel, I interviewed many actresses from all over Europe, and they were all beautiful. Well, when Sophie came in, she reminded me of a Vermeer painting. The character was French, which she is, and she had regal bearing and practically perfect features. I thought, my God, if I was in the royal line many years ago, I would have procured people in my court who looked like her. You may say I was living my fantasies. Not only did she fulfill my expectations about what a French queen should look like, she could turn on the performance too. There were some scenes where she and Peter Hanley, who played Prince Edward, were fantastic that I ended up taking out of the final cut, which was a very painful thing to do, but sometimes you have no choice but do it. Question, yeah, he was very good. He was a nasty villain. Mel, unfortunately, the scenes that I had to remove made you understand him better. He was a villain, a murderer, but I made him understandable to the audience. It really killed me inside to take those scenes out, but I had to do it in the interest of time and the film as a whole. Mel, is there an element of luck in casting? Mel, I suppose you can call it that. You have to be flexible with your vision. You can easily get stuck thinking you need this or that particular actor. Then that actor is unavailable and you suddenly have to recast. A certain panic sets in because you're hard pressed for time. Then another actor walks in and turns out to be better than you had anticipated. That's one of the most gratifying things that makes casting the exciting process it is. So I try to stay open minded. Question. James Cosmo, Brandon Gleeson, David O'Hara, Peter Hanley, they were all marvelous. You have an incredible eye. So how did you find those actors? Mel. We cast in both England and Ireland, and it was the same old process. Drag actors into a room and talk to them. I had a very specific picture in my mind for the Hamish character, a big dude with red hair who had to be fierce and tough, yet have the innocence of a boy. I asked my casting people if they could find him for me and was told that there was a good actor in Ireland I should see named Brandon Gleeson. He walked into the room and I said, that's the guy, right there, instant decision. It was a great experience. Question, and David O'Hara? Mel. He was the only person who ever got fired from the Royal Shakespeare Company. He is the sweetest guy in the world, but he's got this streak of the devil in him, a kind of lawlessness which the character required. I offered him the part straight away. 15 minutes was all it took to figure that one out. Weren't you concerned with his reputation, Mel? Mel, you have to be willing to take a risk. I knew he was wild, but I said to myself, if some of his wildness plays on the screen, it's going to be great. I took the risk, and it paid off magnificently. Question: did you personally supervise the casting of your extras, or did you leave it to your ADs? The extras were the Irish Army. We told them not to shave and not to get haircuts for a while. We told them the story, and they really got into the whole spirit of it. I believe it's very important for a director to cast the extras. Mel, do you have any keys to successful casting? Answer: I trust my instincts and I'm willing to take risks. That's what I operate on. I wouldn't have it any other way. I've done it in both of my films and it paid off. Along the way, I have to admit I made a couple of mistakes too. Luckily, they were only in small parts. This brings us to the end of the Mel Gibson interview, part 4. Part 5 of my interview with Mel is coming up soon. As a special note, I'd like to add the fact that among the 10 directors that I interviewed, I asked a consensus question: do you read actors? 9 of the directors, all A-list, said, yes, we like to read the actors and we like to read scenes from the script itself. That way we could hear it and see if the dialogue actually works. The only director that doesn't read actors was Mel Gibson, and I found his insight fascinating and hope you did as well. Finally, last note, please like, share, and subscribe if you feel this content is valuable to encourage YouTube to promote these videos so other people can benefit from them. Thank you in advance, and we shall re-engage on the Mel Gibson interview number 5 coming up soon.